Hey, good afternoon. Hi, Chloe. I'm good. Um, Greetings. My name is Ann Haubrick, and I am the Grants and Programs Senior Manager at the Regional Arts Commission. And this is my colleague, Chloe Smith, and she is the Grants and Programs Manager at the Regional Arts Commission. We are thrilled that you are with us today. We are going to do a very high-level overview of our program support and artist support grants. So the artists may have to sit through a little bit of program support stuff, and the organizations will have to sit through a little bit of artist support stuff, but you'll all be the better for it. We will only be able to take questions after the presentation, and we will only be able to do that through the Q&A box on your Zoom screen. We will answer as many of those questions as we can at the end of our presentation. And what we don't answer, we will answer later on next week. We'll either send you all a follow-up email or figure out a way to do that, because we do want to answer all of your questions. At the end of this session, Zoom should issue a brief survey to those of you that are here, and your responses will be anonymous. We just want to know what was good, what wasn't so good, etc. And we are also recording this session, and that recording will be available on the Regional Arts Commission's grants page by Monday of this coming week. That is Monday the 30th, I believe. All right. So in terms of an agenda, next, we are going to, we just said our hellos, and I don't believe there are any other RAC staff members with us here, or I would introduce them. They're all lovely people, I can assure you of that. And we will go over the RAC priorities, which include the mission and vision, the guiding principles, and the core values. Chloe will provide an overview of the rest of the workshop series, which is happening the rest of this month into February. We will also discuss accessing the application, the eligibility, the artist support overview, the program support overview, and then application writing best practices. And then we'll have a question and answer period, and we will be able to see those questions that you send in that question box on the Zoom screen. In terms of our priorities, we're going to begin with the mission and vision. And here we go. As the leading public catalyst for arts and culture in St. Louis, the Regional Arts Commission leverages the power of creativity to strengthen and enrich our community. RAC envisions a full creative life for every St. Louisian, St. Louis as a growing and captivating arts and culture destination, and a community rich with opportunities and resources that promotes and sustains artists. You know, I just want to say, while we're getting into the guiding principles, that this all may seem a little cumbersome, and why do you need to know this? But I think that all of these things about RAC informs our grant making. And I think it's really important for you to have an understanding of that as you start to consider how you're going to ask us for some support and how you go about doing that. Our guiding principles.
Great, I'll take on these, Anne, and present these. So we invest in the region's arts and culture through our grants, programs, and special initiatives. We believe in diversity, racial equity, accessibility, and inclusion. We build partnerships that strengthen our community. We are passionate champions that support and recognize artists. And we believe every child deserves a well-rounded education that includes the arts.
Thanks, Chloe. Our core values embody our culture, spirit, and dedication to living our mission. They keep us grounded and help us to make good decisions about everything we do. We are passionate champions for arts and culture, accountable stewards of the public trust, committed to practices that promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, socially and civically engaged community catalysts, and servant leaders.
RAC's mission, vision, guiding principles, and core values are a balance between our passion and interest, the needs of our community. The grants committee and grants team worked to be sure our new grant cycle reflects our mission, vision, principles, and core values, which help ensures our process runs smoothly or as smoothly as possible. And then I'll take us into our workshop overview. So this is the first one today, as Anne mentioned, the basic grant application writing workshop for both program support and artist support grants. This is an overview, and the other ones will go into more detail. So if you see something that specifically stands out to you that you would like help with, we would encourage you to attend the session. Our next workshop will be for artist statements, and that is for artist support applicants only. That workshop will continue on Friday, January 27th from 3 to 4 p.m. and that will be a virtual live session. All of these will be virtual live sessions except for our financial statement clinic, which will be our third workshop where VLAA will present financial statements clinic. That's for program support applicants only, and that will take place on Monday, January 30th from 4 to 6:30 or 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. That will be in person at the RAC offices, and you do have to make an appointment ahead of time. Am I correct on that, Anne?
Absolutely. And then those appointments will be in 15-minute increments. So don't think if you make a reservation that you need to be here for that whole 2 hours. It's just 15 minutes. And there's still time to register. And I encourage the program support folks who would like help with their financial statements to go ahead and do that.
Great. Our next workshop will cover narratives, and that's for both program support and artist support grant applicants. That will be held on Friday, February 3rd from 3 to 4 p.m. Again, another virtual live session. Our next workshop will be building your application budget, again, for both program support and artist support. That will be on Thursday, February 9th from 4 to 5 p.m. Again, another virtual live session. And then we have two final workshops helping to complete the application. The first will be completing the artist support grant application, and that will take place on Monday, February 13th from 3 to 4 p.m. And then the next one will be completing the program support application on Tuesday, February 14th from 3 to 4 p.m. And both of those, again, are virtual live sessions.
In terms of eligibility, we're going to go over the program support eligibility first. And there is a local focus. Arts programs and projects must occur in St. Louis City or St. Louis County. You must be a 501c3 organization in good status as a nonprofit corporation in the state of Missouri and a 501c3 tax exempt status from the Internal Revenue Service, or be a unit of federal or local government, such as a library, county, or municipal agency. The grant cycle, the arts programs and projects must occur during the applicable grant cycle, and an organization may submit only one application per grant cycle. And we'll go over what that grant cycle is a little bit later. It must be arts programming. The proposed program's primary purpose must be the creation, presentation, or utilization of art. And there it is, the grant cycle. The program for which you are applying must take place between July 1, 2023 and June 31, 2024. I also encourage you to look at the restrictions, who can't apply and what you can't use the money for on our RAC website. A couple of examples of that is you can't use the money for tuition assistance. You can't use it for benefits, fundraisers, or award programs. And we can't fund organizations that are part of a religious service. And then we also can't fund cash reserves or endowments. This is essentially program support.
Great. And I will start with artist support eligibility. There is an age requirement that the artist be 19 years or older. There is a non-graduate student requirement that the artist is not enrolled as a full-time undergraduate student. There is a local focus requirement in which the artist is a current resident of St. Louis City or St. Louis County and has maintained primary residence in St. Louis City or County for at least 1 year, and we will require verifiable documentation in the application. We also have current work as a requirement. In the past 3 years, the artist has created and presented their own original works to the public or performed for the public, and verifiable documentation will be required here as well. And then finally, the requirement for the artist collective, which is at least one of the artists has created and presented their own original works in the past 3 years, and the collective has created and presented for at least 1 year, and verifiable documentation is required. I do want to explain a little bit more about the artist collective and would like to tap into Anne here, as this is something new we are presenting this year.
Yeah, so the artist collective will be a minimum of 2 artists that come together to create a work or have a need in the artist support category for the artist support grants. So we've got further information about that in the guidelines, but we think it's a fabulous idea for people that are in bands together, perhaps are trying to do a collective mural together, etc. This is not for 501c3s. This is strictly for individual artists that work together with not less than 2 artists.
Great, thanks, Anne. And then just a reminder, all of these requirements apply to individuals and artists applying as an artist collective. Similar to program support, please be sure to look at the restrictions online to ensure your eligibility. 2 restrictions that I wanted to name would be full-time college tuition. The funds cannot be used to pay for full-time college tuition, or a personal vacation. You can use it for a trip to inspire your artwork, or that is contingent on your artwork, but you cannot use it as personal vacation time. All right, and now I'll take us through accessing the application. And this is a little, some people are new to this and some people aren't. So we're just gonna walk through it to make sure everybody can get to where they need to be. This will show you, so this is where you'll use the link that is given to you for the application, and it'll pop up like this. So it'll say, welcome to the Regional Arts Commission of St. Louis, and please read this note before logging in. And if you want to create an account, you're going to click right where the cursor is. If you're not looking to create an account and you already have one, you're just going to enter in your same email and password that you've used before, and then you're just going to log in. When you hit create your account, it'll ask you, if you're a new applicant, to type in your email to confirm that email and to create a password. So this will only be what you'll see if you hit to create an account. Otherwise, you'll be taken directly into the application. For program support only, there is an extra step. We do require that you enter in your tax ID or your EIN number to access the application. So please have your organization's tax ID ready. You'll need it to access the eligibility quiz to ensure that you're a 501c3 or that your fiscal sponsor is a 501c3. And then finally, you'll be taken to the eligibility quiz and you'll be able to answer those questions. It's very brief to then access the application.
Great, thanks, Chloe. And make sure you tattoo that password onto your left knee after you get it done.
So
I'm
true.
kidding. In terms of the grant review criteria for artist support and program support, we're pretty excited that we've made these pretty uniform or parallel, the artist support to the program support. And your responses to these questions will be weighted. And so that will be 100% weighting altogether. That makes sense, A. So the cultural and or artistic essentials are weighted at 40%. And we'll get to the community benefit, which is weighted at 30%, and the capacity and sustainability is also weighted at 30%. And we're going to go through those right now. You will find that in the program support and the artist support guidelines that are on our website, that there is more information about these than you could ever want. So please make sure that you read those carefully. In terms of cultural and or artistic essentials, weighted at 40%, artist support means a culturally and artistically significant practice or work that contributes to the creative life of the artist and ultimately to St. Louis. For program support, an organization that produces or presents culturally and artistically significant work that supports a full creative life for every St. Louisian. I like to say St. Louisian.
No. All right, so for our next one, it is community benefit. As Anne mentioned, this will be weighted at 30%. And for artist support, this means that the artist demonstrates broad community benefit with a practice or work and contributes to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the community. For program support, this looks like a program that demonstrates broad community benefit and contributes to advancing diversity, inclusion, or equity, inclusion, and accessibility in the community.
And then capacity and sustainability, weighted at 30%. Artist support. Artist is intentional about their artistic practice capacity and sustainability. Program support, an organization that intentionally plans for program capacity and sustainability.
Great, and now we'll begin the application questions for artist support and program support. I'm going to present the artist support questions first, and then Anne will go over the program support questions. For artist support, the first question is about your essentials. We'll ask that you provide an overview of your grant request. Please indicate if funds will be used for a personal need to support your artistic practice, or if they will be used for a public project. After you answer this question, you'll be asked to upload your artist statement, which can be a recorded artist statement, or it can be a written artist statement. And we'll talk more about those in the next workshop on artist support statements. The next question that will be asked is regarding artistic significance. We will ask that you explain the artistic intention of your work and/or practice. The third question will be about program goals. We'll ask, what does success look like for you? What does success look like for this artist project or need? And then we'll ask you to identify and explain your goals, objectives, and outcomes. The fourth question will be about audience. We'll ask, who is your community intended audience? If you are applying to fund an artist need that is not public facing, we'll ask you to please address how facing that need or having that need met or funded will affect your community contribution as an artist. When responding to this question, feel free to share how your work impacts people beyond the arts and culture community. The fifth question will be regarding diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. We'll ask, how do you and/or your practice or work contribute to diversity, equity, inclusion, and/or accessibility of neighborhoods, communities, or the entire St. Louis region? The sixth question will be about community engagement. How is your work relevant to the selected community or location? Do you have community partners in this work, official or unofficial? And who are they? And in what ways do these partners, if you have them, inform your work? The seventh question will be about budget. We'll ask you to upload your project or need budget and provide a budget narrative explaining expenses and revenues. And then you'll see underneath that is the bullet to upload your budget. And then the eighth question will be regarding artist capacity. We'll ask you to describe your ability to carry out the proposed project or your regular practice based on such factors or on factors such as resources involved or outlined and your qualifications. And then here we'll ask you to upload a sample of your qualifications either as a CV or resume. And then the ninth and final question will be about sustainability. We'll ask you to provide a project or practice growth and development statement, just so we can learn about where your practice is headed or what is your intended of your project. Then I'll talk about the required documents. So this is just kind of going over everything you'll need to upload into the application to have a complete application that you can submit. So we'll ask for a proof of residency documentation, which could be voter registration, automobile registration, income tax or property tax receipts. And if you're applying with an artist collective, we'll need that for each member of the collective. No member of the collective can be under 19. The next thing that we'll require is your artist statement, which I mentioned can either be a narrative document or it can be a link to a 90-second video where you're explaining your artist statement. Then we'll ask for the budget template, which we mentioned. It is up on the RAC website, so if you want to go take a look at it, you can. You'll just download that and then upload it with the information that you've input. We'll ask for, again, that resume or CV, and then for the individual artist or for each member of the collective. So we'll need that information for everybody. And then you can upload up to 3 work samples of your work. There will be more information to come on how to format that with links and everything, but we're only asking that you upload 3 pages of work samples. Then there's the list of contact information, and that's specifically for artist collective members, so we can contact anyone in the collective to reach them. And do you have anything you want to add, or are we ready to head on to program support?
Ready to head on. Don't forget
Perfect.
to put your questions in the question button there on the Zoom screen. Okay, the program support applications. I will point out that questions 1 through 3 fall under the cultural and/or artistic essentials bucket. Questions 4 through 6 are part of the community benefit bucket, and questions 7 through 9 are in the capacity and sustainability bucket. Question number 1, essentials. Provide an overview of the program or programs. What is the purpose of the program for which you are applying? How does the program support the mission of your organization? Question number 2, cultural and artistic significance. Explain the program's artistic intention. Who are the artists or creatives involved in implementing your program? We will also ask you here to upload up to 3 work samples. Question number 3, program goals. What does success look like for this artist project or need? I think that's part of the artist support one. So what does this success look like for the program? Identify and explain your goals, objectives, and outcomes. Question number 4, audience. Provide an overview of your program's intended audience. Question number 5, DEIA. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Describe how your organization is committed to DEIA. Also describe how your program makes intentional efforts to attract and/or retain diverse audiences and increase access to the arts for underrepresented individuals and/or under-resourced neighborhoods. If your organization has a board-approved DEI statement, policy, or plan, please upload a PDF of it. If you don't have one, please indicate your organization's intentions of developing such a document or documents. Question number 6, community engagement. How is the work connected to the community, location, or context? Do you have community partners for this program, official or unofficial? Who are they? In what way do these partnerships inform or support your work? Question number 7, budget. Upload your program budget and provide a budget narrative describing the organization's ability to carry out the program based on factors such as people and financial resources. And you will be able to upload your budget. Question number 8, organizational health. Upload the provided organizational health worksheet. You will find a copy of that organizational health worksheet on our website. I'm trying to remember some of the questions that are in there. They're pretty basic about your board and your finances. And then question number 9, please provide a program and growth development statement. The required documents for program support include fiscal sponsorship letter, if you are applying with the fiscal sponsor. More information about that in the guidelines. Also a board of directors list, and you need to include the roles and affiliations, where those people work, what they do in the community on that list. There's also the program budget template, and you can download that from the RAC website. We will have a workshop a little bit later on in February that talks about the budget development. And we'll get into that, into that nitty-gritty when we do that. Financial statements for the 2 most recently completed fiscal years, or your most recent audit if you have an audit. Up to 3 work samples. And there's instructions in the guidelines about how to upload those work samples and really what we're looking for. A critical review is optional. perhaps there is no critical review. We find it hard to have reviewers in our community for the different art forms. And then the other optional piece is that DEI statement, policy, or plan. What we're really looking for here is to see progress with your organization year to year if you come back to us year after year. And then that organizational health worksheet, which I just talked about a bit ago. I'm going to go in briefly on some best practices in grant writing. I hope this isn't too dry for you, but just wanted to go over some very basic things. So we think it's really important to plan and prioritize when you're going through this process. So set an internal deadline of at least 1 week prior to the real deadline, and then aim to submit at least 1 day prior to the deadline. You know, I've been a grant writer in my life. There's plenty of things that can happen, from computers not working, to the system crashing that you're trying to get into, to people bugging you and pulling you in every which way and direction the day that you're trying to get it in. So do make some time to do this. This one should go without saying: follow directions. Read the guidelines, read the application, read all the materials that we so carefully provide for you, and make notes and highlight the important points that you think are going to be helpful to you as you create your application. Make sure you and/or your organization is a good fit for RAC. Review and understand the restrictions, look at the eligibility, etc. Here's a good one. Respond directly to all parts of each question. Take a look, because sometimes we've got those questions and then there are sub-questions in there. So do that. Make sure you check your spelling and your math. When reviewers are looking at your application, some of them can be kind of pickier than Chloe and I might be. So please do check your spelling and your math. And then I always think it's a good idea to ask a neighbor, your big sister, your best friend, to be an objective reviewer, to look over the application before you hit submit. The application development is important. Ensure all elements of your application help tell the same story, from narrative sections through the document uploads and the budget. Align your budget and project narrative. Make the budget justification narrative as detailed as possible. And then there's those pesky goals, objectives, and outcomes, which really, those are performance measures that define the success of your project, program, or need. And I'm going to go just a little bit into those goals, objectives, and outcomes, because this can be a little confusing. But we just want to make it as simple as possible. So a goal is a broad statement. A goal is a summary of the big picture. A goal is future focused, perhaps long term. A goal is intangible and difficult to measure. Chloe, do you have an example of a goal possibly?
I sure do, Anne. I've got a bunch of goals. But this one specifically, our goal is to build partnerships in order to expand our programming reach.
Very good. That's a good example. Now, I think that one pitfall that people fall into when they're creating goals: don't create too many. Make sure that there's enough for just that granting period for that year that we're talking about, and make them simple, and make sure that the goals align with RAC's priorities. Objectives. They will often say that objectives go by that SMART acronym, so that they're specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. An objective is a narrow statement. An objective is a precise description of end products. An objective is clear and concrete, and it is tangible and measurable. You often want to use action verbs when you are creating your objectives. And what I mean by that is words like assess, create, define, describe, develop, increase, improve, interpret, etc. Chloe, do you have an example of an objective for us?
Sure, I would love to share an objective that builds off the goal I just shared. So by March 30th, we will have established contact with 3 community-based groups who have an interest in our concert series.
Very good. You're working on that. Outcomes. An outcome is a statement of humanistic benefit, change, or effect. An outcome is measurable. An outcome is a valuable tool for answering the so what question. And an outcome is a way to highlight long-term impact and value. Hey, Chloe, how about an example?
Sure, I'll build off my objective. Our presence is increased without having to sacrifice our limited administrative capacity.
Thank you, Chloe.
You're welcome, Anne.
Now that I know you all understand the goals, objectives, and outcomes. Technically speaking, when you're writing your application, use the most recent version of an internet browser that is supported by the online system. Don't feel you need to use all of the character space provided. We think that there's more than enough room, and we want enough information to be able to understand your project or whatever it is you're applying for, but you don't need to use all of that space if you don't need to. Use simple bullets, spaces, and blank lines when you're creating your application. Limit abbreviations and don't skimp on proper punctuation. And realize the risk associated with saving your drafts in an online form. Create your draft application in a Word document elsewhere and then copy and paste. It's so frustrating to be creating your application in that portal and then to have it not save or to go away. So I'm telling you that from experience. So those are my tips for simple putting together an application in a good way. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, and then we'll just share our contact information. So for any technical questions, and this is specific to trying to access the application or issues with the application, please email MSRACSTL grantmaking@blackbaud.com. They will get back to you and assist with any technical questions. For who to contact with process questions, that is Anne and myself. So you can reach me at Chloe, CHLOE @racstl.org. And you can reach Anne at ANN @racstl.org. And now I think we'll open it up for questions. We'll go through our Q&A and we'll try to get everybody the information they need.
Yeah, and don't forget to get that survey after this. It's very basic, and we'd love to get your feedback to improve these workshops as best as possible. Olivia has asked, can you apply as an individual artist and also be a part of a collective that is applying, even if you are not the main person in the collective applying? So, for example, if I as an individual am applying for a press because I am a printmaker, can my band also apply to fund recording? Wow, that's a good question. Originally, when Chloe and I had this discussion, we said no. But if you are doing two completely different things, I think that we would make room for you as a printmaker and as a musician that's part of a band. So I would say typically no. Like let's say that Parliament Funkadelic were applying for a grant from the Regional Arts Commission, and if they as a collective wanted to apply, that would be Parliament Funkadelic, but then Bootsy Collins wouldn't be able to apply for an individual artist grant. But I would say that if you're two completely different disciplines, I would think that would be okay. But if you are considering that, please make sure that you approach, will you email Chloe or me and have a discussion with us before you make that application? Let's see. So Andrew says he's a little confused if he is eligible for either of these grants. Do I already need to be a part of something? No. Andrew, if you are an individual artist and you want to apply, I encourage you to read the artist support guidelines and to make an application. And if you have questions, please email Chloe or me. But it seems like, no, you don't need to be a part of something prior. And we welcome your application.
Yeah, to kind of explain in a little bit more detail, you're eligible for an artist support grant if you're an individual artist or if you're an artist that's a part of an artist collective. You're eligible for a program support grant if you are a 501c3 organization or you have a fiscal sponsor that is a 501c3.
Yes. Shanina asks, can schools apply for RAC program funds? Right now, we are not funding schools, and I'm sorry about that. I am hoping that RAC is able to fill our coffers back up enough in this next year that we will be able to accept applications from educational institutions in 2024. But right now, no. Yeah. Okay, Arts and Faith, we will get in touch with you. Chloe, can you see the questions?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, good.
You want me to read a few?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, great. So we'll move on to Cornell, who says, my program starts 1 month before the grant cycle in June of 2023. Would it be a good idea to push my program back a month?
Yes. If you need that money, I would say yes.
I would agree. Yeah, I mean, if it's not going to compromise, your program, I would consider it in order to get the funds.
But I also want to say that we can't, even though we're saying yes, I can't guarantee that your application is going to be funded at the same time. One thing that we neglected to say during this is that we have a pre-application so that if you are a first-time program support applicant, you are required to submit a pre-application, and I can't remember what that deadline date is, but it's coming up in February, and then we will provide feedback to your application before the final deadline to make it a stronger application. And artist support artists can also do a pre-application too, but you're not required to, even if you're a first-time artist. But if you want that feedback, I would say yes. But yeah, Cornell, I think that if you have a solid program and you feel very good about it, which I'm sure you do, it might be good to push it back if you think you have a good sense of it and a good feeling about getting money. If you want to contact Chloe or me to have a further discussion, I encourage you to do that.
All right, we'll move on to Deborah, who says, in review of the 9 grant questions, it seems that this might be designed for artists who have already had some career success, exposure, and community relationships. I'm in the early stages of expanding my role as a professional artist. Is this grant appropriate for me?
Chloe, I'm going to let you answer that one because you've been dealing mostly with the artist support today.
Yeah, so Deborah, I think it can kind of depend on where you feel like you're at. I would definitely say our grant is great for artists that are in early stages of their career. We do require that artists be presenting works publicly for 3 years, but that can be in a variety of different ways. I'd be happy to answer more questions if you want to email me. But I definitely feel like this is appropriate for artists just starting out. It's just trying to document what they've done to show their work publicly.
Thanks, Chloe.
Sure.
Yes, Dolores has asked, will the slides be available online? Absolutely. Well, we can supply these slides online. Definitely the recording of this webinar will be available on Monday, and we can make sure that the slide deck is available too. So yes, thank you for asking us that. Sherry asks, do work samples need to be of upcoming artists or of artists presented in the previous season? Our artists are often working in different groupings and have no recordings of the specific group we are bringing. I think it's up to you to make the strongest application possible. And that could be, with artists that you're going to present in the upcoming season, I think would be most helpful. But if you don't have that, to give us an idea of what you have been presenting, I think it would be okay to do from the previous season. Melissa asked, this will be my first writing for an artist grant. Is there more support available for the writing process?
We do have the narratives workshop, which would be really helpful.
Yeah, and then we'll also, we've got the narratives workshop, and we also have the artist statement workshop, which is taking place tomorrow. If you're not able to make those, they will all be posted online along with the slide decks. I will also say that we have other resources on the website as well. And I would look at places like Creative Capital, which is an outfit out of New York City that have a lot of resources for individual artists and about putting together individual artist grants. Cameron asks, I'm an individual artist with a 501c3 that is currently in the process of having its IRS determination established. Can I apply for artist support using the work I've created so far on behalf of my arts organization? I would say yes. If you are in the process but don't have it yet and are not applying for program support, I think it would be fine for you to come into the artist support grant round. Don't you think, Chloe?
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see. If I have to purchase airfare for May or June international artist residency, but have to buy it earlier as it can get double expensive, can I do so as I wait for my grant approval? No. All of the costs affiliated with your application will have to take place between July 1 and June 30th of July 1, 2023 and June 30th of 2024.
Yeah, and another way to think of that is that the grant can't be used for reimbursement for something already spent.
Thank you, Chloe. Thomas asks, can you apply if you own your own company and a promoter and manage an artist and need funds to promote the artist?
I would think the individual artist would have to apply.
I think that too. Yeah. Yeah, that's the answer. Yes, the artist would have to apply. Trish asks, as far as eligibility, what classifies as presented work to the public and documentation? Double question mark. Chloe, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, and I think you can kind of help me out here. And I think it's very broad, my personal opinion of presented work to the public. And I think that your CV and your resume will really help you to kind of bring this to life in chronological order of when you've presented works. I mean, classifying work as presented to the public is just meaning that others have been able to get their eyes on it and it's accessible to them, whether that is through social media or whether it is through a gallery showing. As long as it is you're sharing your work publicly and anyone is able to access it, that's what I would consider to be presented work to the public. And documentation, I think something that's really helpful is just to follow a CV template or a format, just to get an idea of how you can lay things out to let us know when you are presenting your work, where, and what type of work it was.
Thank you, Chloe.
Sure.
Is there a pre-application requirement? Can you describe what that is? We talked about that just a little bit ago. And if you want to submit a pre-application, which is the same application that you see online, you can do that. And that deadline is, do you have that in front of you, Chloe?
I think it's the 20th. So the application opens February 13th, and we give you 5 days or so to get an idea of what you want it to be before you can submit it, and we'll review it.
And then you will get it back at least a week before the final deadline. So you will have that time to incorporate feedback, if you choose, into your application.
And those timelines are all on the website with all of those detailed dates. So you can just go to the grants page of our website and you can navigate to the timeline for artist support or for program support, and you can see all of those specific dates.
Yeah. Janessa asks, how many grants will be given out? You know, we really don't know. It depends on, we have a finite amount of money to grant, and it depends on how many applications we get and how the scoring and the rating goes once we get into that part of it. So I'm not able to answer that question. Lynn asks, if our organization cannot make the program in-person meeting on 1:30, is there another way to access the information they will be going over?
I mean, yes, they will be recorded and put on the website, so you'll be able to access that information there. And if you do want to reach out to us and have specific questions, we'd be happy to answer those as well.
Right. Oh, I want to go back up to the pre-application requirement question. Even though that application won't be available to start filling out until February the 13th, it is, all of the questions and the application questions are posted online right now, so you can go take a look at those questions.
I mean, you can even start putting them in a Word doc now and just kind of brainstorming your ideas for answers and responses too.
Yeah. Shaylin asks, what type of documentation is required for live performances? For instance, if a songwriter was signed to a label but was unable to release publicly, but performed those original works at live music venues in St. Louis, how would you like documentation? I think if you've got a recording and you want to send a link to that recording or that, performance for little or no people, or just a short snip, or if there are reviews, I think that there are several examples in the guidelines of what you can supply us with.
You want me to take this one, Ann?
Yes.
Yeah. Eileen says, I didn't see the prerequisites for an individual artist applicant, only for the program support applicants. You can find those prerequisites online, or you can listen to the recording here. I don't want to take up too much time going back through them, but they are all online if you just download the individual artist support grant guidelines.
Okay, this person asks, do journalists with an interview platform interview St. Louis talent on video to highlight their work fall under the artistic qualifications? I think it would depend on how you frame yourself in that artist application. If you want to have a further conversation about that, please email Chloe or me, and we will try to correspond with you or talk with you about that. Anything else on that, Chloe?
No, I think you're right. I mean, it would definitely be about how they would frame this as an artistic practice. I mean, is it a podcast? We would just need to know more, and we'd be happy to help you figure it out.
Yeah. Thanks. Janet says, my medium, hand-woven tapestry, is time consuming to create. Ooh, I bet. My exhibition takes place 1 month after the cycle has begun, but the work has to be made for a year in advance. Do I qualify? Well, I would imagine that you are creating your work on an ongoing basis and have many needs. And if you have a need for that exhibition, whether it's renting space or installing, etc., that you do qualify.
Yeah. And I would just say to keep in mind, we don't do reimbursement. So we couldn't, pay for the supplies that you're already using, but we could help, the money could be put towards the exhibition cost. So, if you have any questions about that, we'd be happy to answer them, but hopefully we answered it just there.
Yeah. Brett says, I am a filmmaker. With regard to the requirement to have a public exhibition of my work, can I reference a film screening of a film on which I was a co-producer and one of the cinematographers? Yes. That was
Definitely.
Easy. Thanks, Brett. This next question, can part of your budget be travel expense to a different country for research? If you make your case and you are a St. Louis artist, I think it could. Yes, absolutely. M asks, when is the application process close and how long does it usually take for the application to get reviewed? Our whole schedule is on our website, and I can tell you roughly, because I don't have that in front of me, that the application closes on the deadline day, which is March the...
I think it might be March the 27th or so. yeah, please take a look at the timelines. Once you see it, you'll notice why we don't remember all of it. It's a lot.
And then the application process. So there will be there will be reviewers that read your application. And then there may have to be a panel meeting. And then we expect to have those approvals made sometime in May. And then you will get notification in May or June. And then you should get your money if you get approved and get a grant by the end of June, beginning of July. But once again, take a look at that, that time schedule on the RAC website. If you are a published author and you want to perform your works in schools and universities, would this be okay for a grant? Yes, if you're an individual artist, absolutely. Mijay asks, if I have to purchase airfare for May or June international artist residency, but have to buy it earlier as it can get double expensive, can I do so or wait? No, I think Chloe already answered this question a little bit ago. Chloe, do you want to go over that again?
Yeah, so unfortunately, the grant funds cannot be used for reimbursement. So any money that you spend ahead of time, you cannot apply for a grant to be reimbursed for that. So it would have to be costs that occur within the grant cycle period.
Great. Let's see, somebody has asked, what does CV mean? That means curriculum vitae, which is similar to a resume. If you Google those differences, you'll figure it out. But it's just really a listing of what you've done, where you've done it, when you have done it, etc. So similar to a resume. Cameron asks, are applicants limited to one project or program per application, or are applicants allowed to apply for multiple projects or programs at once, an entire theater season or series? Absolutely. And particularly for the program support, you'll see in those guidelines that you can apply for a whole series of, like the Black Rep does their whole series. Maybe they're not a good example because they're general operating support, but yes, absolutely. Let's see. If you are not really good with the computer, can you have someone do the application for you? By all means, but it will need to be done online.
Yes, and another option for that is you can go to the library to access some of the tech there, use their computers and submit from the library if you don't own a computer of your own. Right.
Anne asked, will you have the Q&A from today listed online? We will do a frequently asked questions and we'll get those posted online. So thanks for asking that, Anne. Aileen asked, am I still eligible to apply as an individual artist if I have been advised to refrain from making work visible to the public until design, copyright, and brand trademark protection has been solidified? I would venture to say yes, absolutely. Just because you're waiting for that doesn't mean that you're not engaging in your practice.
Got one more.
Oh, can the grant be used to pay for international travel, specifically for finding artists in manufacturing? Again, I think if you make the case and outline your need in the application, that it could be used for that. We want to support the artist in every step of the way. Go ahead, Chloe.
And I just think going through these questions, another thing to point out that might be helpful to review is just those restrictions, because it's kind of a longer list of what we do not fund. So it might be helpful if you've got any questions to just go through the restrictions. And if you see anything listed in there and want to know more about it, just let us know. But I think that might be helpful for some of these questions.
Great. Any other last minute questions before we say goodbye?
There are some coming in, Anne.
Okay, good. Oh, I see, there are. I think I'm having trouble with my computer today. Okay.
The one that I see is, can you explain the difference between an artist program versus an artist project? Well, I think they're kind of synonymous. I might be misunderstanding your question because it's essentially the split is program support and artist support grants. So artists are they're considered projects. So you can apply for a need, an artistic need, like you need more supplies, or you can apply for a certain project that you're putting on, a gallery space you want to rent, an exhibition that you're showing at, or you could, for travel or anything like that. An artist program. I mean, Anne, do you have anything maybe I'm missing here? I think them synonymous.
I think you're right on. Yeah. Yeah. Saroj asked, I am a hip hop musician that makes collage art and commissions live art for performances. Am I eligible? Absolutely. If this is part of your practice and what you're doing, we encourage you to apply if you meet the other eligibility criteria. I don't see any other questions. Do you, Chloe?
I think that's all we got. We'll give it another minute while we say goodbye.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope this was valuable, and please do give us, give us the feedback that we need so we can make this better. And then if you have questions about building a budget or any of the other things that we're having our workshops about next week and the next couple of weeks, please attend or at least watch them online. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, Jay Scherter, for being there in the background and helping us out. All right, thanks a million. Give us a holler, and we look forward to reading your applications.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.